Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 11 of Keep It Clean with Manny Robles. I'm your host, The Fighter's Rep, along with your legendary co-host right there on your screen, Manny Robles. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, George. How about yourself?
I'm doing.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, I think you're styling and profiling in the Lakers jersey today, Manny. What's up with that, my brother?
Representing Southern California, man. Representing my town, my city,
I
LA.
love
Let's
it.
go Lakers.
I love it. I love it. Have you been following the NBA at all, Manny?
Yeah, I guess I have. I've been following my Lakers. You know, we got doing quite well. I've been following my Dodgers. My Dodgers are kicking butt. My Lakers are kicking butt, so I'm happy.
Awesome.
I'm happy. I'm excited to have sports back. You know, major sports back in action. You know, boxing and the UFC, and now basketball and baseball. It's good. It's nice to have all my teams back on track.
Absolutely. And man, you've been following the UFC fights closer than usual, am I right?
Yeah, I have. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to keep up. I'm learning day by day.
I like that.
Fight by fight.
I like that. I like that. Well, Manny, today's show, you know, we've got some juicy topics. First and foremost, you know, I wanted to discuss the whole Pauli Malginaggi situation. It looks like, you know, it looks like he's been fired, Manny, from Showtime for some of the stuff that he said as a broadcaster. We're also going to discuss the Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia fight, which looks like it's happening for sure, Manny.
Right on.
It looks like it's happening for sure on November 21st.
Yeah.
And then we've also got Gervonta Tank Davis taking on Leo Santa Cruz. That's supposed to happen on October 24th. Finally, I also wanted to touch real quick with you on Matchroom Boxing's comeback. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that at all.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did. I watched a couple of the fights, and then it's nice. It's nice. What is that? Is that his back? Is that Eddie Hearn's backyard?
Yes, it is, man. I believe that is his backyard, my man.
That's his backyard, huh? Wow.
That's a hell of a backyard, Manny.
That's a hell of a backyard, man. Ooh, very nice.
Yeah. I don't know if that's doable out here in Southern California with the real estate prices, Manny.
Right? Yeah, I'm telling you. I don't think it's any cheaper out there. So
You're right.
He must be doing good. Boxing must be treating him well.
Oh yeah, real good. But you know, speaking of boxing, not treating you so well. You know, let's kind of get into the first topic here, Manny. It looks like Paulie Malignaggi was fired over some controversial remarks on racism and racial oppression. You know, I'm not big on talking about this sort of political and social stuff, especially as a businessman, and I know you're a businessman as well. And it's almost like anything you say is probably always gonna, you know, rub somebody the wrong way in these situations. But I wanted to discuss this with you because you've mentioned to me in the past an amazing story regarding your father and former world champion. Was it Reggie Johnson? I believe you told me.
That's correct, Reggie Johnson.
So I guess, you know, I definitely want to get into that. But before that, I mean, are you aware of what Paulie Malignaggi said? How aware are you of this whole situation?
A little bit. You know, I've heard some stuff about what he said, and obviously, you know, it was, I don't know. I mean, I guess it was uncalled for. You know, growing up, my dad would always tell me, think before you speak. You know, because words matter. Words matter.
Oh, yeah.
In this case, you know, they came back to, you know, by Paulie, and unfortunately, it is what it is. And now he's lost his position on as a commentator and with Showtime Boxing, and got him a job now. That was a sweet little job he had, and now he's out.
Yeah, you know, it's a real shame, Manny. And the weird thing about it is And I say it's a shame because like I don't think it's great what he said, and I don't think it's great what happened to him. I never want to see somebody lose their job either. But you know,
Of
you gotta,
course.
like you said, you gotta watch your mouth sometimes. He said the weird thing is he said, I try not to join into the race conversations because this is the exact examples of why I don't believe there's racial oppression in 2020 in this century. So he
Wow.
started he started off by saying I try not to join, and then he not only joins but you know kind of makes this kind of outlandish claim that he doesn't believe there's any racial oppression.
You must be living under a
Yeah,
rock.
yeah, in 2020. So I thought that was a bit weird. I think if you're gonna say I try not to join, then you should not join at all. You know what I mean?
Correct. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
And
Absolutely.
and it all kind of stemmed from you know what Devin Haney had said about I'd never let a white boy beat me or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that doesn't sound good that on his part.
Right,
That doesn't sound very good either. So,
right, right.
that's not a good, that's not a good thing to say. Definitely. Definitely not.
Yeah, yeah, Manny. In a time like this, you know, 2020. You know, me and you are kind of we're kind of on the sideline here, Manny. We're both you know minorities. We've both have our had our experiences, and your experience with your father and with Reggie Johnson is something that I think the world needs to know about, because instead of you know it putting something negative out there, it puts something incredibly positive out there.
Mhm.
You know, so at this point, I'm just gonna have you take over and kind of tell the what I think is an amazing story
It
between
sure is.
your
It
father, Reggie
sure is.
Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you very much, George. It sure is. And I've always wanted to share this story with the people, with the public, and tell them a little bit about my dad's story, my dad's story with Reggie Johnson, particularly, and both Reggie as well, how together my dad and Reggie, they won two world titles. Reggie was the middleweight and the light heavyweight champion of the world, WBA middleweight and IBF light heavyweight champion in both the middleweight championship and the light heavyweight championship. And it's a remarkable story. This takes place back in the late '80s, early '90s when they first started working together. Back at a gym in Southern California, the gym was called the May Boxing Club. Woo, way back in the day. It's not around any longer, but it was a real popular gym back then. My dad began working with Reggie, and obviously they both again they worked together. But the interesting thing about this story is that my dad hardly spoke any English, if any at all,
Right, right.
and Reggie spoke no Spanish. So here you have a top athlete in Reggie Johnson that did not speak a word of Spanish again, and then my dad, top coach at the time, not speaking very much English, or none at all, like I said, and they had great chemistry. They got along so well, and it's like they made each other. They made each other what they were, and they managed to work together despite the language barrier. But they loved each other so much. They cared about each other so much. Uh, um, the chemistry that they had was second to none. And I'll always remember what they were able to do together. Me as a kid, as a young man coming up in boxing, I actually got a chance to work in a couple of Reggie Johnson's fights as my dad's assistant coach. Coming up with my pops.
Right, right.
But I was pretty young myself. But what they were able to do, what they were able to do together was incredible. They started from nothing, man. They came up together, and there was times when they hardly had. This is a tough sport, man. I've always considered boxing to be like the poor man's sport. You know what I mean? Where you know you walk into some of the boxing gyms that they're so modest, they're there, there's not a whole lot of equipment, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you walk into this beat down gyms that don't have a, the bags are torn. You can see the tape wrapped around the bags, and
Right, right.
there ain't holes on the canvas and stuff, and it's
But that means it's a good gym a lot of the
that
time,
means
right,
it's a
Manny?
good gym. Exactly. That means it's a good gym, because I tend to believe that most great fighters come from gyms such as what I'm just referring to right now. And there was a time when my dad and Reggie were coming up, and times were hard. They would collect, change. They would live together. There was, remember one time they were during training camp, and my dad would tell me, and Reggie would tell me too. Later on, after my dad passed away, my Reggie would tell me about the stories about him and my dad, that they would be living together, and they wouldn't have any money. They would have money to eat.
Right, right,
So
right.
they would hear that here they are collecting nickels and dimes, to try to make it through the day
Wow, man.
and have enough food to eat for the day. And this was after Reggie had won his first world title, if I'm not mistaken. And and then obviously he lost the world title. Things weren't going so well for him. And this one day he gets a call to fight William Guthrie for the light heavyweight championship of the world. Mind you, he was a middleweight going up to super middleweight at the time, which was 168. So he was going to begin campaigning at 168. But before he even had a chance to campaign at 168, he gets a phone call to fight for the light heavyweight title again versus William Guthrie.
And this was for the
I,
IBF light
IBF light
heavyweight
heavyweight.
title on
Correct.
February 6, 1998, Manny.
1998?
Yes, sir. February 6, 1998 at the Mohegan Sun in Montville, Connecticut, brother.
Yeah. Wow, look at that. And so, obviously Reggie took the fight. It's a shot at a title. So, their whole luck changed. Everything changed for both my dad and Reggie. And they got a crack at the title. And obviously at the time, if you look at William Guthrie's record, both undefeated, all wins, all knockouts.
Wow.
So it was pretty much set up for William Guthrie to win the world title, and pretty much put in someone like Reggie Johnson that was a former world champion, that a fighter that they probably considered to be for his best days, to be behind him.
Yeah.
So he gets a shot at the title, man. They get ready for it. Everything changes for both my dad and Reggie, and they walk into the ring and fight for the world title. The world title was vacant at the time, so it was pretty much again set up for William Guthrie to win. And what do you know, man? Reggie Johnson knocks him out in the 5th round with a devastating right hook, because Reggie was a southpaw.
Yeah.
Devastating right hook to the chin. Boom! There goes William Guthrie down, and he was out for the count, man. They had to take William Guthrie out on a stretcher.
Dang.
He was out. It was out. Oh man! They after the fight, it was just, man. Everyone broke down in tears. My dad, Reggie, just broke down and fell on the canvas, fell on the canvas floor, and just cried, and everyone around him, the entire team, obviously with my pops. It was just a memorable night.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it was kind of like the Andy Reid situation, when nobody really believed in him.
Right.
Nobody ever thought that he could beat William Guthrie, and then he proved the world wrong, man.
Yeah.
Proved the world wrong.
Yeah.
That when you're hungry, when you're, and sometimes, situations such as what my dad and Reggie went through make you stronger, but you create a bond with this person. This person believes in you, my dad, and sometimes that's all you need, is for that one person to believe,
right,
that one person to believe in you, and for both of my dad and Reggie to have faith and know that, that anything in life is possible, despite, again, the language barrier, or despite my dad, sometimes, I mean, I know it doesn't, to us, it doesn't matter, but Reggie being an African American, my dad being Mexican, but yet it didn't matter,
Right. Right.
none of that matters.
Right.
None of that matters, and I see that, and it's just love conquers all. You know what I mean? That's what I believe. That love conquers all. Faith and believing in your team, and your coaches, or vice versa, your fighter. Anything in life is possible, man. So that's it's a remarkable story. Again, something that I'll live with for the rest of my life. And Reggie Johnson and I still talk on the phone from time to time, and I still call him. He sends me pictures of my dad and him, and we talk about the old days with my pops, and continues to tell me stories about when they did travel the world. They went to Korea together. They went to Japan. They went to Argentina, Italy. They traveled the world together, man, and they were able to win 2 world titles together again. So that, not once, but twice, in 2 different weight classes.
Incredible.
So incredible, incredible.
Incredible, man. Incredible. And, I was just going to ask you about the traveling the world, because I see that immediately after that fight with William Guthrie, the same year, just a couple months later in May, he defended his IBF title against Ole Clementson in Pesaro,
Yes,
Italy. So I'm
Italy.
assuming your
Yes.
dad had to go out to Italy.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's back in the day when I would sit around at home, just like I am right now. Sit around in my house, reminiscing and just thinking about, my dad being in Italy. Obviously, back then there's no social media,
Right.
where there was no Skype, or you call somebody on the phone, and you have to wait around for them to come back and show you pictures. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
So for me, it takes me back to them days when things were much, much simpler, and I would wait around for my dad to come back from his trips, such as this one from Italy, and sit around and talk to my dad about his whole experience. Because we're sometimes you step back and you think that things like this are not supposed to happen to people like myself, or even like my dad. Where we come from, everything that we've had to endure in life, myself particularly, my dad, coming up, and being born and raised in Mexico, and everything that he had to go through to make it to this country, and then all of a sudden he becomes one of the best coaches in boxing.
Wow, man.
You know what I mean? That's what this country gives you, though. We live in the best country in the world.
Right.
And going back to, this has something to do with the situation with Paulie, because this is the best country in the world. It isn't perfect. It's not. But believe me being able, with the experience I've had, and obviously my pops, being able to travel the world, being in different countries, from the Middle East to Asia to Europe, Eastern Europe, Western, everywhere, South America. Man, I tell you, man, we live in the best country in the world, and the best city in the world, baby.
I could
Yes.
I couldn't agree more, man. I definitely love it here. Been around myself as well. Family probably dealt with similar circumstances to yours,
Correct.
trying to get here, and 100% agree with your sentiments, man. And I love that story, Manny. I love that
Yeah.
story.
Thank
I
you.
wanted to ask you, during the time your father was training Reggie Johnson, were you helping in the training? Were you already kind of being groomed to become this fantastic coach that you are today?
Yes, I was. I was already in the gym. Like I said, I had an opportunity to work a couple of Reggie's fights in the corner with my dad. So at a relatively young age. I was in my late 20s. 27, 28. I was already working world title fights alongside my dad. As his assistant coach. So that's where the experience comes from as well.
Yeah.
You know, I was already getting my feet wet, and what a an opportunity, what a start, right, to a boxing career, a coach's boxing career at that age. I was young, I was fortunate, I
Yeah.
was lucky.
And you
to be
mentioned,
alongside my dad. Go ahead.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, and you mentioned, helping him with Reggie Johnson,
Right.
who's a guy who, fought a championship fight against Roy Jones, who's also in the
That's
news
right.
right now.
Yeah, I got a chance to work that fight as well. He fought for the undisputed light heavyweight championship of the world
Yeah,
versus
man.
Roy Jones when Roy Jones was in his prime. So can you imagine fighting? Being involved in a fight for the undisputed titles,
Wow.
all the titles on the line. The major titles back in the day, IBF, WBA, WBC.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, Reggie came up short to in that fight, and Roy Jones won that fight. Again, like I said, he put up a great effort, and Roy Jones at the time was definitely considered pound for pound one of the best fighters in the world.
You know what, Manny, and Reggie, I'm looking at his record. He went on to win 5 out of his next 6 fights, I guess, before retiring. The
Correct.
only person he lost to, now I want to point this out, and this is
Yeah.
this is a credit,
Yeah.
to Team
Right.
Robles right here. He lost to Roy Jones by unanimous decision. I mean, he didn't get knocked out or anything like that. And
Right.
then he
Correct.
went on and he fought Antonio Tarver
Okay.
in 2002, and it looks like even that was a split decision.
Yeah,
So I mean, it
yeah.
must have been a good
A
fight.
lot of us. I'll be honest with you. I think Reggie won that fight, but it is what it is. It was a split decision.
Wow.
It could have gone either way. The scorecards don't lie.
Yeah.
A fight could have gone either way, and obviously it went to Antonio Tarver's. It went Antonio Tarver's way, but it could have easily went Reggie's way, and that would have been fine. But hey, it's boxing. It's the past, and obviously, like I said, Reggie being able to, my dad and Reggie, the history that they were able to, that they made together, you know what I mean, was incredible. Again, they had their share of wins, obviously more wins than losses. They had a few losses along the way, but they conquered. They conquered, what a lot of most boxers fight for, which is to win a world title, and not once but twice in 2 different weight classes. And again, what's most incredible about this story is that, again, here you have 2 men that don't speak the same language, but yet they have that love, chemistry, understanding. They spoke the same language in boxing.
Incredible.
Ultimately, that's what they spoke, the same boxing language, and they understood each other. Sometimes you don't have to say anything. Sometimes you got to do is just look at the person, and the person will know. Your boxer will know exactly what he want what he wants
Right,
from you. You
right.
know what I mean? So it's and that's what they had.
Manny,
That's
how
what they
how
had. That's
how
what,
were they able? I mean, so they just communicated with gestures. I mean, how were they able?
they spoke. My dad spoke some English, broken English,
Yeah, yeah.
and Reggie spoke English, but my dad understood everything he said. Now, mind you, just because he didn't speak the language didn't mean he didn't
Right,
understand
right, right.
what Reggie was saying. He understood everything Reggie said, and vice versa. I guess Reggie couldn't speak Spanish, but he learned.
Right,
He learned
right,
all the
right.
bad words. you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so they were able to communicate with one another.
Right, right. Well, I mean, kind of circling back. I mean, that's an incredible story, but kind of
It
circling
is.
back, Manny, to Pauli Malignaggi, man. It's a sad situation. I do think he's a pretty good commentator. I don't like to
He's an
see,
excellent commentator.
yeah, I don't like to see people losing their jobs. But like you said, we all need to care for each other and maybe think before we talk in the future. And
Yeah.
I hope he gets his job back or something works out for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, I believe he's a great, great commentator. He's on point. He's a fighter,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's what we need. We need more commentators that understand the sport. Sometimes, with all due respect, sometimes we get commentators that don't understand the sport. They don't understand the sport of boxing.
Right.
And when you have former boxers or coaches that are commentating, it's always good. It's always good to hear because you know what they're talking about. You know that they've been there. You know that they've had experience in the past. You know, when a man goes down, when a man gets cut, you know, when a man goes down and he gets back up, or when he gets knocked out, or you know, I mean, it's always good to have people that know what that know the sport, that understand the sport,
Right.
and Paulie's one of them.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's another crazy thing about it, and somehow somehow, Manny, your connections to the boxing game always come up. It looks like he's being replaced by a guy that you're coaching right now.
Yeah,
4-time world champion, 3 different weight classes, Abner Mares, which is pretty
correct.
amazing.
Yeah, apparently so. I mean, I didn't know he was actually commentating until Saturday night when I was watching the fights. It's like, wait a minute, what's Abner doing out there? Oh, no wonder he missed the gym on Friday. Okay, he was out in the East Coast commentating the fights.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that I guess is that taken away from some of the training time here, or are you still putting that crack in the whip on him?
He's a professional. He knows what he needs to do.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? When he's not in the gym and he's somewhere else, he knows he's got to get up in the morning and go put the miles in or whatnot. You know, wherever he's at, he's a professional, so he knows what he's just. He understands his responsibilities.
I love it. I love it. And are we going to be seeing you cameoing in any broadcasting gigs
I
soon,
hope
Manny?
so. Maybe sometime in the near future, you might be. I don't know.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay,
Yeah,
so so on that note, I want us to move on to the next topic, Manny. It looks
yeah.
like we finally lined up a fight for Errol Spence Jr., Manny. It looks like it's happening on November 21st for his WBC strap against former champion Danny Garcia. Kind of give me your thoughts on this matchup and each guy, Manny.
Well, I think it should be a good fight. We all know Danny. Danny's a good fighter. He's a game fighter. I don't believe he's at the same level as Errol Spence. But then we have yet to see Errol Spence after his accident.
Right.
Right? He hasn't fought in quite a while. So, which Errol Spence will we see? Will we see the same Errol Spence that defeated Mikey Garcia in at the Cowboy Stadium?
Right.
Or will we see someone else? I don't know. Was he able to recover from the accident 100%? Will he be the same as before? Will he struggle with weight? It's been a while. He
Yeah.
hasn't made 147 in a minute. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see which Errol Spence shows up to the fight.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, Danny Garcia is something that's going to be in his favor. Probably the only thing that's really glaringly going to be in his favor, Manny, is the fact that he fought a few times, in the past year or so. Excuse me, he fought Adrian Granados on April 20th, 2019, and then he fought Ivan Redcash on January 25th of this year. It's hard to believe he actually fought this year. So his fight with Errol Spence on November 21st would be his second fight this year, Manny. Where
Plus on another note, he fought Red Catch in January. Let's not forget Red Catch is a southpaw.
right,
So he's
right.
now fighting another southpaw in Errol Spence. So that's a plus.
I see.
That's a plus for Danny.
I see. And then if we look over at Errol Spence, I mean, obviously he's coming off that hellacious accident that he went through. He hasn't fought since September, excuse me, 28 of 2019 when he fought a very tough fight, Manny, and a split decision in a very grueling fight against Sean Porter. I mean, imagine going through that grueling fight. He came away with the win. I thought it was pretty dead even until he got that knockdown late in the fight. So he gets that win. Then he gets that horrible accident, Manny. It's been over a year since he's been in the ring. I mean, do you think it was a wise decision for Errol Spence not to sort of take a tune-up fight ahead of a Danny Garcia fight?
I don't know. It's just it depends. Errol Spence is a warrior. By the way, by the time they fight, it'll be 2 years.
Pretty much.
So
Yeah.
plus 2 years plus the accident, and I'm telling you, which I have yet to see which Errol Spence shows up to fight. I believe, I want to think and believe that we'll get that same exciting Errol Spence, but we have yet to see. Let's hope we do, and if we do get that Errol Spence, we all know, I don't have a doubt in my mind that he'll defeat Danny Garcia.
Right, right. And we've got Errol Spence. I mean, believe it or not, man, he already hit 30 years of age.
Wow.
And he's going to be going in there against a slightly older Danny Garcia, who's only 32, Manny. And but for whatever reason, I guess because he's been in so many fights, so many big fights has Danny Garcia. I feel like he's an older 32. You know what I mean? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just he's not a fighter. Danny isn't a fighter that's been in a lot of wars. Even his last fight with Red Catch, he didn't look too hot.
Yeah.
That fight was not I thought he was going to knock out Red Catch, to be honest with you. Him being the bigger, stronger fighter of the two, I thought he was going to have his win, which he did. Won by unanimous decision. But I was expecting for him to go out there and just knock the guy out within 6 rounds. Red Catch used to fight at 135 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of my former boxers as well. When Red Catch first came to America from the Ukraine, I was actually, they brought him to me. I was actually his first coach out here in the United States. So I worked with them for a few fights. And again, 135, 140, then 147. Obviously, you're dealing with a much bigger, stronger fighter of the two, and Danny, I figured he was going to run right through him, and he didn't. It was a kind of somewhat of a boring fight, in my opinion.
Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong about this, and I have all the respect in the world for Danny Garcia, Manny, but I feel like he kind of peaked a bit earlier in his career. This is just my opinion, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. I felt like the last time I saw a really good Danny Garcia was back in 2013 when he fought and beat Lucas Matisse, who at the time was an absolute threat from Argentina.
Yeah, monster.
After that, he won a majority, I guess, decision or something like that against Mauricio Herrera, which was, a lot of people thought Mauricio Herrera won that fight.
Mauricio won that fight, correct. It took place in Puerto Rico. First time he'd ever fought outside of the United States, Danny, being Puerto Rican American. I mean, he got the decision, but I saw Mauricio Herrera win that fight, personally.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like, he peaked quite a while ago, Manny, and I'm kind of with you on the Errol Spence train. I feel like Errol Spence, at this point of their careers especially, is the superior fighter. I mean, what are kind of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely a superior fighter. Like I said, we'll get to see which Errol Spence shows up to fight.
Right.
I mean, that we're all wondering. You know what I mean? It's been a while. It's going to be 2 years now since his last fight. That was a war with Sean Porter, plus the accident. I mean, geez. I mean, I don't. That's a long layoff. You know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see who shows up.
And I will say, I was a little bit impressed by Danny Garcia, Manny, knocking out Adrian Granados in 7 rounds in 2019. I feel like Granados has historically been a pretty tough kid, so I thought that was a pretty good performance. But besides that, I'm with you on that Ivan Redcatch fight. I thought that was a weak performance.
Yep. Granados, he's always fought the tough fights, but he's never won it. He's never won the tough fights. Right. You know what I mean? Right. He's fought everybody, but unfortunately, he's never came out on the winning side. He's always coming out on the losing end. So he's a game fighter, but that's it.
And Errol Spence, in case anybody forgot, I mean, really hitting his stride before the accident. He had taken on, between 2016 and his last fight, Chris Algieri, Leonard Bundu, Special K Brook, Manny, Lamont Peterson, Carlos Ocampo, Mikey Garcia, and Sean Porter. So he took on some very tough guys and got through all of them.
got through all of them. Exactly. That's why we consider Errol Spence to be pound for pound one of the top fighters in the world, despite the long layoff.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping, Manny, the boxing gods love me enough to give me what I want, which is Errol Spence fighting Danny Garcia, and the winner, which I think will probably be Errol Spence, finally getting in the ring to settle the debate between Terrence Crawford and Errol
Yeah,
Spence. What do you think
that's
about that
right.
one, brother?
That'd be awesome. Here's here's a fighter that's been staying busy, that's been looking impressive when he fought Benavidez. What he did to Benavidez was very impressive. He pretty much won every round, and he knocked out Benavidez in that last round. In the convincing fashion, exciting fashion that he got it done in was incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't wait to see that fight with Errol Spence.
I really hope that fight happens, Manny. So, if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the chat. Also, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join me and Manny every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific for Keep It Clean with Manny, where we talk about boxing. Also now available, Manny, we've got Keep It Clean boxing gear. We got shirts, we got masks. They're in the link below, brother. So if anybody's interested in picking those up, supporting the show, it will be greatly appreciated. So let's kind of go on.
Right on.
Let's kind of go on to the next topic here, Manny. We've got Tank Davis versus Leo Santa Cruz, Manny.
Okay, that's I'll tell you, man, that's gonna be a good fight. Two fighters that are both. I want to say Tank is in his prime, and I don't know. We have yet, Santa Cruz. He's never in a bad fight. He's always in great shape. He doesn't look like he's slowing down at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but I do believe that Tank is the bigger fighter of the two, the stronger fighter of the two. Records don't lie, the numbers don't lie. Look at Tank Davis's record, and pretty much been running through everyone, and he's strong, he's solid, man.
Yeah,
he's a solid fighter. But we've got Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz moving up to the lightweight division. I mean, super featherweight, junior lightweight. And trying to make history. I mean, he's a 4-time division world champion, 118, 122, 126, and now 130.
Wow.
But if he's able to beat Tank Davis, man, he deserves to be on the top 10 list, pound for pound. And he'll definitely, not just that, but he'll definitely, put his name in the record books, and in the future we'll see him in the Boxing Hall of Fame. That's for sure.
Manny, I could be wrong, but I believe I read that this fight is going to be for a title at like 2 different weight divisions. Is that correct, or do you think I read that wrong?
That's impossible. That's impossible. Either it's 130 or 135,
Right,
but it
right.
can't be. You can't fight for a world title at 130 and 135. If I see that happen, then man, I've seen it all. And then I've seen it all.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, I pulled it up on Google just to confirm here, and it says on this article that I found that the fight will have both the super featherweight and lightweight titles on the line. I mean, how weird is that if that's true, Manny?
No, that can't be. Please stop it, please. Who's sanctioning this fight? What boxing organization is sanctioning this fight?
I'd have to. I'd have to look. I'd have to take a look at.
I know who, but I want you to do the research, and I want you to tell me who. But I already got the answer.
Uh-oh. Well, I see WBA.
WBA.
I see WBA. Yeah, are they the guilty? Are they the guilty party right now, Manny?
Yes, they are. Because how do you? First of all, if Tank Davis he's the world champion at 135, and we've all been asking ourselves this question: what weight class is this fight going to be taking place in?
Right.
right? Because if he's the world champion at 135, he's the bigger man. He's the stronger man of the two. We all both understand that. And he's going to have a 5 pound advantage over Leo Santa Cruz
Weird.
the day they win, the day they get on the scales. Because look, if you're fighting for both world titles, then Leo has to make 130. He has to make 130.
Right.
If he's fighting for the junior lightweight title, he's got to make 130. There's no if or buts. And of course, Tank has to come in at 135. If Leo comes in at anything over 130, he automatically relinquishes the title. Therefore, he cannot fight for the 130 weight world title. He can fight for 135, but not 130.
Well, my understanding, Manny, is the fight is going to be at 130. And for me,
if it's at 130, then they'll fight for Leo's world title, not Tank.
I have no idea,
That's what I don't
Manny.
understand. See, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
How do you fight for 2 world titles? You can fight for 2 world titles in the same weight class.
Yeah, yeah.
But you can't fight for 2 world titles in 2 different weight classes. You just can't. Either you fight at 130 or you fight at 135. Take your pick.
It's very strange, Manny. It's very
It
strange.
doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It's very
So,
strange.
Mr. Mendoza, and Mr. President of the WBA, can you come out and explain to the public, explain to us boxing fans what the WBA is up to with 2 world titles in 2 different weight classes? It doesn't add up.
Manny, since when do boxing fans get any explanations, brother?
Yeah, nobody ever asked any of us for permission. Yeah, you're right. Just go out there and do what they want.
Manny, the crazy part to me though is, I mean, why would Tank Davis? I don't know. Maybe I'm the crazy one, but why would Tank Davis accept a fight at 130 pounds? The guy could barely make 135 against Gamboa his last time out.
Well, that's the problem with Tank. See, and a lot of fighters, not just Tank, is that he had trouble making 130. Now apparently he had trouble making 135, and he goes up. And if he goes up to 140, he might even have problems making 140.
Yeah,
it's discipline, man. It's discipline.
Yeah.
It's just being disciplined, taking care of your body, watch what you eat, and doing things right. But if you leave everything for the last minute, if you're not training properly, if you have bad eating habits, then you're gonna struggle to make weight, man.
Yeah, Manny, I feel like he's a guy who's got so much potential, talent-wise, and also he's got a lot of popularity. He's got a lot of popularity, and it drives me nuts as a boxing fan and as a promoter when I see a guy like that, and can't stop himself from eating and all. Yeah, it's just. It's sad. It's sad. And like you said, I mean, he had trouble making 130. He decided to go up to 135, and then he couldn't even make 135 immediately, after that 130-pound fight.
How are you going to make 130? Exactly. That's a big challenge. There better be a lot of zeros in that paycheck,
I would imagine there are.
Maybe that might be the motivation for him to, come down to 130 again and make that weight.
Right. But that's scary, Manny. I mean, at that size, right? At that size, Tank is a guy that relies on like explosion and power. You know what I mean? Explosive power and speed. Yes. And I don't know. Just I'd like your opinion on this because you're a coach and you've seen this sort of in your laboratory out there in your gym and in your training camps. A guy at 135 who's having trouble making 135, a shorter guy, very muscular, now draining himself down to 130, Manny, to fight a guy in Santa Cruz who, I don't know, is pretty durable and seems to never really get tired. That could be a huge problem later on in the fight.
Oh, definitely. It could. But let me tell you something. I'll tell you what. Tank Davis,
Yeah.
he's got some pop, man. He's got some power. He's got real power in his punches. Devastating power in his punches. So he's a real deal.
Right.
When it comes to his power, I'm telling you, man, this guy can crack. He can definitely crack. Lay someone out. As a matter of fact, there's a video out there with him sparring Red Cats. We're just talking about Red Cats when he
Right,
fought
right,
Dominic
right. Yeah,
Smith.
that was a thing that happened recently.
Oh yeah, recently, and you know, Tank put a number on this guy, Red Catch. Man, he
Yeah.
beat the shit out of him in sparring.
Right.
Excuse my French,
No, it's-
but man, he had his way with him. A much bigger guy, and that's why Tank, man, he's impressive. He's a real deal, and if he comes in right for this fight, I think we're gonna probably end up seeing one of the best fights of the year.
right, right. I think the other warning sign for me though, Manny, is on Tank Davis is, despite the fact that he jumped up a weight class and wasn't really able to make it all that easily, or if at all, against Yuriorkis Gamboa. He went into that Gamboa fight, Manny, against a guy in Gamboa who, isn't really known for his chin anymore and is much older. And he didn't really get him out of there until the very last
Correct.
round, So that's another thing. I 100% agree with what you're saying. Tank is incredibly explosive and knocks people out left and right. I mean, he's got 23 wins, 22 by knockout.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think cutting all that weight, if he doesn't do it the right way, man, this could be a disaster. Am I right?
That's it. You got to do it the right way. You gotta give yourself time.
Yeah.
You can't be training to cut weight. That's another thing. Fighters, especially when you're a world champion, when you're a prize fighter like Tank, you got to prepare for the fight. You can't be in training camp. This isn't the Jenny Craig program. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't join camp to lose weight. You got to get going into camp to get ready for the fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you got to focus on the fight, not focus on losing weight. That shouldn't be your issue. That shouldn't be the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Your problem should be taking care of your opponent.
Right, and Manny, what do you feel about Santa Cruz? I know you mentioned. I mean, he is the smaller guy, right? He kind of moved up to 130 recently. I mean, how do you think he looked at 130 pounds? Do you think he belongs in there?
Only had one fight at 130.
Right.
And I mean, honestly, I think, that the way things were set up for him to fight, because it was a vacant title. Right, he wasn't fighting the Tank Davis, which was the WBA world champion at the time, and he vacated the title to move up to 135. So, Santa Cruz fought for the vacant title, WBA. So the opponent that they put in front of him for the world title at 130, was in my opinion, he was pretty much not given the title, but yet somehow it was set up for him. The fight was set up for him to go out there and just win a world title in a different weight class.
Right.
So he hasn't fought anybody at 130, if you ask me.
Right.
He hasn't defended that title at 130 either. So now you're facing Tank Davis.
Scary.
And I'm telling you, Santa Cruz is an incredible fighter. A great fighter at 118, great fighter at 122. Great fighter at 126. Had some great fights at 126.
Yeah.
With the British,
Frampton.
the Irish kid.
Frampton.
Yes, Carl Frampton. Twice. The only man to defeat Leo Santa Cruz, by the way. And the second fight was a close fight as well.
Right.
So, yeah. But now at 130, I don't know. Maybe he's pushing it a little bit. He's pushing it a little bit and fighting someone like Tank Davis. Maybe get one or two more fights at 130 before you can call out Tank. You know what I mean?
Right. No,
that's my take on it.
That makes a lot of sense, Manny. I appreciate the input on that, obviously, Manny. I kind of wanted to talk to you now about Matchroom Boxing's return in Fight Camp, Manny, in Eddie Hearn's big backyard, brother.
Wow, that's a nice backyard. You know? Impressive.
Oh man,
That place looked like a hotel. That's his house.
it was lovely,
That's his
man.
backyard. Wow. Maybe he's neighbors to the Queen out there in Great Britain, right? That's he lives in his own castle.
Manny, could you imagine the barbecue that me and you could have in a backyard like that?
Whee! Man, parties every other weekend. I tell you,
Man.
get my whole family out there. I'll forget about it.
So, Manny, I mean, did you get a chance to catch those fights? If so, tell me what you thought about those fights.
No, I caught I believe it was the main event. It was a good fight. Good. I think that they were fighting for the lightweight title, some British title out there. It
Yeah.
was a good fight. Definitely a good fight, and evenly matched fight. Boxing, their styles out there, and boxing styles that are a little bit different. That European boxing style is different from the style here in the boxing style here in America. But I like the fight. It was a good little matchup, and great. I got a chance to see Eddie Hearns' backyard, man. Very nice.
Very nice. And you mentioned the difference in the styles, Manny. I mean, you can't tell me something like that and expect me not to ask you about it. What do you
Right.
mean? Tell me what the differences are that you see.
Um, I think they're more mechanical out there. I think fighters are a little bit more mechanical. You know what I mean? They're more. I think the boxing style out there is it's more basic.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh, 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 fighters out here in America, they're a lot more elusive than fighters in Europe in Britain in particular. But they're definitely game. They're game. They got a heart. They got a chin. They can fight. They keep coming forward, and they give people what they want.
Yeah, yeah, and the main event you were talking about, Manny, was Ted Cheeseman taking on Sam Eggington, a fight that I watched. I thought was really, really a great fight,
It
Manny.
was entertaining.
Very
It was
entertaining.
an
Yeah,
entertaining fight,
yeah,
definitely.
very entertaining. The other fight on the card that caught my attention, obviously, is a huge fan, Manny, of the heavyweight division, and you know a little something about the heavyweight division. Was a guy his name is Fabio Wardley. I guess he's sort of affiliated with Dillian White in some way. Maybe they train together. Um, he took on a Simon Vallily, I believe his name was. Were
Mm,
you able to catch
okay.
that heavyweight scrap at all,
No,
Manny?
no, I weren't. I didn't. Honestly, I flipped it onto the Dodger
Gotcha,
game, man. I'm
gotcha.
sorry.
Well, we'll let you slide this time, Manny.
You know, I flipped the channel onto the Dodger game, and not like I said, we got sports back on TV now, so I get myself busy with boxing and the Dodgers, and so
Gotcha. Well,
hey, sorry
well,
guys.
Manny, I'm gonna need you to watch some more Miami Marlins and Miami Heat in the future, if you don't
I don't
mind.
know about that, buddy. I don't know about that. I don't know if the Barnets ever get to play, right?
Yeah, yeah. But Manny, what was interesting to me was watching these heavyweights go at it. They looked pretty. The winner Wardley looked pretty talented. It was for the British, I guess the British heavyweight strap, which is kind of how they do it over there. They got like their domestic belt, and then that's when they decide, okay, this guy might be world level, and then they move you on. The kid looked,
Oh, that's
yeah, the
fine.
kid looked pretty good.
Junior belts, junior belts, junior titles are necessary in boxing.
Yeah,
I think that it gives the fighters an opportunity to get into the rankings.
yeah,
And all these titles, man, a lot of people always talk about how come there's so many titles in boxing? How come they're necessary? I don't honestly. We'll see how people take this, but honestly, I don't think there's enough titles out there for fighters because when you're a world champion, you are one world champion in the entire world,
right.
right? WBC featherweight champion of the world. That's one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
For the entire world,
yeah,
right? Meanwhile, in America, like you compare it to other sports, you got the NBA. You're the NBA champion. But in Europe, you could be the NBA champion in Spain or the NBA champion in France. So you know what I mean?
Right.
But world champion in boxing, there's only one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you look at the old, if you go back into the boxing back in the old days, all we had was the WBA and the WBC belts. First it was the WBA, then the WBC,
Yeah.
right? And then there was, and then obviously you had two world champions within the WBA and WBC. But there's thousands of fighters out there, hundreds of thousands of fighters, top fighters in the world that sometimes never got an opportunity to fight for a world title because they never got their chance. There's too many fighters.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I'm
Right.
saying? There's too
Right.
many that you had to wait for your shot, and that opportunity, in some cases, never came. So now, it's 2020, and you have four major belts with the WBC, WBA, IBF, and the WBO, respectfully, and so now you have four world champions. You have one world champion. Four world champions in the middleweight division. With all with every belt. So it gives fighters more of an opportunity now.
Right. Right.
You don't fight for the WBC, well, guess what? You might end up fighting for the WBA or the WBO or IBF, and then you got the junior belts in the NABF, NABA, USBA, NABO. Those are important. Those are necessary for fighters to get ranked, to get recognition, and to eventually get a shot to fight for the world title.
Yeah. No, I agree. The more opportunity, the better. And like you said, a lot of these guys might never get a chance. That's one thing I thought was pretty cool about some of these sanctioning bodies that do like regional.
Yeah.
Manny, they do kind of like regional belts. I don't think that's the worst idea to do stuff like that. So, and then maybe, get the regions to fight it out for maybe a higher belt or something like that. So,
Yeah, something like that. You know what I mean? I think it's great for boxing. Once you understand the sport, once fans get to understand the sport and get to see why there's different belts and so forth and so on, then they get an idea as to, okay, this is important for the fighter, any fighter. If you put a belt, whatever belt, NABF, which is a big belt, WBC, and if you offer that fighter an opportunity to fight for that belt, I'm telling you, man, he'll take it in a heartbeat, and any fighter will do whatever it takes to win a belt.
right,
Put
right.
your life on the line to win a belt, to be a champion. Whether it's a world, obviously the max, which is just to become a world champion, or a minor belt within North American Boxing Federation or Intercontinental Champ, or something like that. I mean, they'll give their lives, man. They'll do whatever.
Oh, I know I know it, Manny. I mean, even when we put up when we put up a kickboxing title at my shows, I mean, it's like
Right.
these kids are ready to kill each other over it. So I definitely understand.
Boxing is the only sport you don't play.
For sure, for sure. So Manny, we've got. Well, I mean, before I get to all these questions and comments in the chat, man, thank you guys all for your questions and comments. There are a ton in here. I wanted to say that I was pretty impressed by Fabio Wardley, Manny. He looks like a pretty good heavyweight. He's 9-0 now.
Okay.
He won the British title. So
Right on.
and it was a good fight. He kind of kept his hands down a little bit, but he was. I guess that's his style. He knocked the guy out in the third round. I thought it was awesome. So yeah, and they're saying he might be on the Dillian White Povetkin undercard. So
Okay.
always good to see more heavyweights coming up, Manny.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great for boxing. They control the if you could, what they say in boxing. If you control the heavyweight division, you control boxing,
Yeah.
and that's written for you. They got the two, big heavyweight champions in Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. So man, they're controlling boxing right now, man. They're the kings of boxing right now, and all power to them.
Absolutely. So, Manny, let's take a look real quick at what we got here in the chat. Thank you all for joining us, guys. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon next to it. Join us every Monday at 7 p.m. Also, follow me at the bottom of your screen right there at Fighters Rep on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere else. And you could follow Manny right there at the bottom of his screen at manuel.boxing. You can also follow him at LBA Legends on Instagram. Manny, that is your management company. Manny will be not only coaching but managing fighters. Obviously, he's a person with their best interests at heart. So any, fighters interested in being coached or managed by Manny, you can reach out to him there. Combo Nation is in here, Manny. He says, there have been whispers this week that Conor McGregor could have another boxing fight, this time with Manny Pacquiao. They're both managed by Paradigm and have been going back and forth on Twitter.
Okay.
Manny, you famously helped a fighter shock the world against all odds last year. Hypothetically, if Conor called you, would you ever entertain training him for a fight like that?
Definitely. I would definitely consider working with McGregor. I mean, he's an incredible athlete, What he's been able to do in his sport is incredible. I met him personally at one time when I was working with Michael Conlon. Michael Conlon's pro debut, he actually walked into the locker room.
That's right.
And walked us out into the ring and, took some pictures and, great guy, great personality and a great athlete at the same time. So he's a character and he's definitely positive for the and I know not just in the UFC, but everyone around the world knows his face. You know what I mean? So, he's very popular, and it would be an honor actually for me to have an opportunity to work with someone like McGregor. It'd be awesome.
Absolutely. And Manny, I have heard of some MMA fighters reaching out to you in the past. I won't say any names, obviously, but it's something that could happen.
Yeah, why not? I like challenges. You know what I mean? I like to take on these type of challenges, but let's not forget about Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is an incredible fighter himself.
Yeah.
And last but not least, you got two softballs facing each other.
Right,
so
right.
It'll be interesting to see how they match up.
Manny, what were your thoughts before I move on? I'd kind of like to know, what were your thoughts on McGregor versus Mayweather? How'd you think he did against Mayweather?
Well, Mayweather is Mayweather.
Right.
Mayweather is definitely one of the top defensive fighters in the world. And we all know he beat Manny Pacquiao pretty convincingly.
Yeah.
And we saw what he did to McGregor. So I think that both Manny and McGregor might be able to match up a little better. Manny Pacquiao does not have the same level of skill that Mayweather has. He's explosive, he's quick, he's fast, he's a little awkward. But when it comes to defense, you can't top Mayweather's defense. So I think that McGregor might be able to match up a little better with Manny Pacquiao. He might be able to find some openings. And you have to make the adjustment as well. Like I said, they're both two southpaws. So let me comment on this. Right-handers are not used to fighting southpaws.
Right.
They're a rare species. But southpaws are used to fighting right-handers.
Right.
But southpaws are not used to fighting southpaws.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Believe it or not, southpaws have to, they have to work to
get used to it. Yeah, to get used to it.
One another, exactly. So because they're not used to fighting southpaws again, they're not used to fighting each other, but they are used to fighting right-handers, and right-handers, vice versa, are not used to fighting southpaws. So
for sure,
and it's that's just how it is. That's how it works. But they would definitely have to adapt to one another. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
For McGregor to adapt to Manny Pacquiao's style and vice versa.
Yeah. Manny, I thought he did pretty good for a guy going in there against a guy in Mayweather that I think is probably like the best fighter I've ever seen or one of them. So.
look what he did to Canelo, and now Canelo's the king of boxing.
Right, right, right.
I mean, he's just he's dominated Canelo.
YRT is in here, Manny. He says Lakers all day.
Yes, sir.
Uh, Neil the security says, "What's up, fighters rep? What's up, Manny? Thank you for joining us." He says Malignaggi fired for real. His commentary was top notch, is what Neil the security says.
I think so. I definitely think Pauli Malignaggi did a great job as a commentator, but I mean, sometimes, like I said, his comments came back to bite him in the ass, and I respect Paulie. I met him personally. He's a great guy, great character. Has a great character, but it is what it is, man. Hopefully things can change for him in the future. I wish him nothing but the best.
Right, right. Solaire's in here. He says, "What's up, everyone? Hope you're all doing well." Thank you, Solaire. We hope you're doing well as well. Fight Life Nation says, "I'm with Paulie on this one. I understand the point about keeping your mouth closed when it comes to politics and race, but I don't think his comments deserved firing." So I guess that's just up to opinion on that one.
Right.
Solaire says, "I really don't like politics in sports, Manny."
Mm-hmm. Who does, right?
Yeah. And then they have an entire discussion about, they're having an entire discussion in the chat, Manny, about keeping politics out of sports. Manny, it's kind of a way, for a lot of people to kind of get away from all the negativity and the news and the politics and stuff, sports is. So I could kind of understand what people are saying about that. I definitely don't like to turn on the news anymore, Manny. It's depressing, brother.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know what? I have fun watching the news.
Yeah.
I have fun watching arguments going back and forth between CNN and Fox News. I have a blast, man. Well, let's see what these guys have to say. Let's see what these other guys have to say. So I go back and forth, and I get a kick out of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. This question I'm a little confused about. Maybe you understand it. Neil's Security says, "As a Puerto Rican, our rivalry against Mexico has never been a racially motivated thing. It was just competition. So why is it so prevalent today?"
Always. It's always been that way. I've been to Puerto Rico on a few occasions, and I have Puerto Rican friends, and I get along great with my Puerto Rican brothers. And we see eye to eye in this thing, and we keep it in the ring.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why we respect each other so much, because of the wars. It's the only sport in the world where you can beat the crap out of one another, and at the end of the night, you can go have dinner with the other guy. You know what I mean? And embrace the way you do, and you respect one another. And I mean, two of my favorite fighters in the world have been, actually not just two, but some of my favorite fighters of all time have been Puerto Rican.
I know
Felix Trinidad.
I know you mentioned to me you loved Miguel Cotto.
Miguel Cotto, Felix Trinidad, Edwin Rosario, Hector Macho. A lot of Mexicans in general, the general public, hated Hector Macho Camacho.
Yeah.
Because he was a character, and he had a big mouth.
Yeah.
But I met Hector. I had the privilege and the honor to meet Hector, to be around Hector Macho Camacho back in the 80s as I was growing up at the Azteca gym with Jimmy Montoya. And I met him personally. He used to train at the same gym I did, and he was a happy guy, man. He was, he was loud and outspoken, but that was just his character.
The macho man, man. He was the macho man, brother.
The macho man, but he was a great, and then look at Paez.
Yeah.
Paez reminds me of a Hector Macho Camacho. Coming in with their wardrobes into the ring and being flashy and flamboyant, you know what I mean? But they were great fighters, different styles, but great fighters, but very much alike, their character.
Yeah, I loved Hector Macho Camacho. I love the style and the flamboyance. I think that's an important, I mean, maybe it's the promoter in me, Manny, but I think that's an important aspect of the sport, man.
I believe it's good for boxing. It's great for boxing when you have it. And we don't have them type of fighters anymore.
Right. And you know who was great also at playing like a role was Floyd Mayweather. I thought Floyd Mayweather He was the best. I mean, I think as far as playing the heel, playing the bad guy, like I thought he did a
Yeah,
great job.
definitely. That's how it made him money.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, people paid to go watch him lose.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right,
but he
right.
was a great fighter, real recognized real, baby. And
Man.
let me tell you something, man. Mayweather was an incredible fighter. I don't care what anybody says. You know, it was a close fight with Oscar. Could have lost that fight with Jose Luis Castillo. Could have lost that fight too. You know, the first fight.
Yeah.
You know, even Maidana could have lost. Could have went either way that the first time they fought, but he still got the victory. He still got the win.
Yeah, yeah. And
And Canelo didn't even come close.
no, Canelo got
Right?
wiped out,
Oscar
man.
did, Castillo did, Maidana did, but Canelo wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And again, with all due respect to Canelo, and you see him now, he's the face of boxing.
Right, right. Canelo got wiped out, but one thing I do, one thing I do give Canelo is, I mean, he was still like a baby, I think, when
Still
that
young.
fight happened,
Still young.
So he's
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
gotten better. Not to say I don't know if the result would be different. I mean, I think Canelo would do better, but Mayweather was just a
But
wizard.
can I say something though? You know why he got better? That loss to
Oh
Mayweather
yeah.
made him a better fighter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That defeat to Mayweather made him a much, much better fighter today. He'll probably tell you that himself.
And Manny, I feel like he picked up a lot of Mayweather's defensive moves as
Yes, he
well.
did. Yes, he did. Absolutely. That's a fighter that he's a much better fighter now, obviously, but I believe that defeat versus Mayweather took him to another level.
For sure, we
He
got
learned a big deal from that defeat.
Fight Life Nation in here. He also says the Danny Garcia fight was terrible when it was announced, but now I think it's a great first fight back for Spence. And I agree with that, Manny.
Yeah, but look, Danny Garcia is a good fighter, but he's if for Errol Spence, you cannot expect. You can't see. I don't want to fight him. I don't want to see him fight Granados,
Right, right,
right?
right.
Like Danny did versus Granados. You mentioned
Oh, yeah.
last year, but but Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia. Yeah, that's what we want to see. We don't expect anything less.
Right, right, right.
You know?
We have Soler in here saying Tarver wrecked Jones, Mike Tyson for running. Jones should have fought Tarver, and Tyson should have fought Holyfield. That'd be those would be a couple interesting.
Well, I think they're having a tournament. I think they're having what's called a Masters tournament.
The Viejitos League. The Viejitos League.
All the Viejito League, yeah.
Oh,
So they're all going to end up fighting each other.
Soler is saying that Spence is such a good fighter that Garcia has to be a big-time underdog, which is probably what's going to happen. But again, we got to consider, right, Manny, the accident and everything else.
You got to consider the long layoff, a 2-year layoff, plus the accident, the car accident that Errol Spence had. So you got to wait and see who shows up.
Yeah, yeah. Windy City is in here. Thank you for joining us. By the way, if you're new here, again, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it, and get your Keep It Clean gear in the link below in the description. Windy City says, explosive woman beater. Manny, I believe he's referring to Tank Davis, and that's when he made the comment.
Oh, that's we got nothing.
Yeah,
to do with that,
we're staying.
That's extracurricular activities, man. I mean,
we're staying away from that one, Manny.
We're staying away from that one. Yep.
We're keeping it clean on this show, guys. We're staying away. Rocket Rob says, "Hi, Manny. This is a good one. What advice would you give to amateur fighters who are about to consider going professional?"
What advice? Well, it just depends. It depends on the individual. If you're thinking about going pro, okay, first thing I would consider is age, and second, how much amateur experience do you have that you might think you're ready for the pros?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How many amateur fights, how many tournaments have you competed in that you feel like you're ready for the pros? You know what I mean? And age as well. I don't believe fighters at age. I mean, there's a lot of fighters that tend to mature early, You got some 18-year-old, 19, 20-year-old fighters that are remarkable. They're great. But that's experience for you. These are kids that have been boxing their entire lives. So by the time they hit 18, they're ready for the pros. You know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
then in some cases, you have fighters that start out late in the game, and so they tend to mature, boxing wise, they tend to mature a little later. So, 21, 22, 23, 25, uh, um, a lot of amateur international fighters like Lomachenko. If you look at Lomachenko, he started late as a pro. But if you look at his extended amateur career, I mean, he was a world champion already, even before he went pro.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody knew he was going to become a world champion because of his expertise as an amateur, being a two-time Olympian, fighting in two world, I believe two-time Olympian, two-time world champion, and a European champion, and so forth and so
Yeah,
on. Yeah,
yeah.
you're ready for the pros.
Yeah, he won an Olympic medal twice, I think it was, right, man?
Correct. Two Olympic gold medals.
Manny,
Correct.
how about expanding on this question a little bit? As a promoter, I would definitely recommend surrounding yourself with people that care about you, and I think it's
Correct.
important,
Definitely.
having an honest coach like yourself and a manager like yourself, somebody with your best kind of interests at heart
Yeah.
before you
And,
go
and, and
pro.
I'm not afraid to tell let a fighter know, hey, listen, this isn't for you.
Yeah, yeah,
This isn't for you. Because I care about the person. There's a lot of coaches out there, including managers out there, that'll turn you pro just to make a couple of dollars off of you.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I'm not about that. I'm not about that. I'm about taking care of my boxers and making sure that they go home, after every fight. It's already a dangerous sport, man. You're already putting your life on the line. So you're gonna step into that ring. You want to be 100%. You want to make sure that you're prepared mentally, physically, and that you have that experience that you need to go into the pros.
Absolutely, and I would second that, and I would also say definitely have a coach and a manager with your best interests at heart. That's something I've seen as a promoter a few times. Most of the people I work with are great people, but a couple of times, Manny, I've come across some very slimy coaches and people
Yeah,
that were just kind of looking to take
unfortunately.
advantage of the fighter. Yeah, so you definitely want to surround yourself with the
Yeah.
right people. YRT says, Manny, what do you think of more 90s boxers like De La Hoya saying he wants to return not in an exhibition, and Fernando Vargas saying that he wants to fight him?
Uh, who am I to tell him what to do?
Yeah, yeah,
Who am
yeah.
I to tell someone like Oscar, or someone like Fernando Vargas, man, two of my favorite fighters of all time. When they fought, that was a great fight, and they had a lot of animosity
Yeah,
towards one another. They hated each
that was
other,
great.
at one point. But now it seems like they get along well. Like they're friends now, which is great. So it wouldn't be the same thing anymore,
Right.
obviously, as it was back then. But in my opinion, I just think that, look, like, why does Oscar need to
Oh
fight?
my
He's a
God.
promoter,
Oh my God.
you know. He's a promoter. He's a world champion in different weight classes. I believe five different weight
Yeah,
classes.
yeah, yeah.
He doesn't need to fight any longer.
Yeah.
He fought the best fights out there. He fought the best fighters out there. Never backed down from anyone. Fought Macho Camacho. Fought Chavez. Fought Pernell Whitaker. You know, who else did he fight? Fought Fernando
Everybody,
Vargas.
yeah.
Fought
And
Mayweather.
Bernard
And
Hopkins,
yeah, he
Shane
fought the best.
Mosley,
Yeah, Felix
Felix
Trinidad, Shane
Trinidad,
Mosley.
yeah.
Fought the best fighters in the world, man. He doesn't need to come back. He doesn't need to prove anything anymore.
Right, right.
But I think I want to think he's got plenty of money. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
he doesn't. Why do it?
Manny,
Stay home and take care of your
yeah,
grandkids.
you're nicer than me, Manny. My opinion is, these guys don't need to be fighting anymore, especially De La Hoya. I think somebody asked him if he'd fight Canelo, and he kind of gave this, oh, I'm not sure, I'm not that crazy, but I've never backed down from a challenge. I said to myself, you know what? That's not even a good look to even pretend
Right,
like
right.
you'd fight Canelo. I don't think that's a good idea. Like you said, Oscar's done everything in the sport. There's nothing left for him to do. I don't think he should come back.
Absolutely not.
Let's let's
Absolutely.
let's make way for the young talent, Manny. Let's make way for
That's
the
right.
young guys, you know?
That's right. I agree 100%. There's a lot of good, talented fighters out there. Oscar should be out there looking for the next Oscar de la Hoya. You know, searching for the next Oscar,
Yeah.
searching for the next Fernando Vargas. You know, the next Chavez,
Ryan
the next
Garcia.
Whitaker.
Ryan Garcia might be the next Oscar De La Hoya if they play their cards right, you know?
No, I don't think that'll ever happen. First of all,
Yeah.
Ryan Garcia was never an Olympic champion.
That's true, but he's such a
So
big
that's,
name, Manny. He's such a big name, right?
I mean, you know, yes, he is. But I mean, I don't think he'll be the next Oscar de la Hoya.
Yeah, yeah.
Oscar was a world champion at 130, 135, 140, 147, 154.
Right.
Come on.
Canelo.
And Ryan Garcia. Canelo's been, I don't know, man. I don't think, look, with all due respect to Canelo, I don't think he's bigger than Oscar.
Wow, okay.
Whoa, come on, man. Think about it. Oscar won an Olympic gold medal as a Mexican American.
Right.
You know? He represented both nations, both Mexico and the United States. Won a gold medal.
Right.
You know? He's the last. Oh, no. Andre Ward was the last one. Andre Ward and, you know, obviously a couple other fighters that have won gold medals at the same time. But Oscar, what Oscar did, you know, as an amateur, and then what he did as a pro, going from 130 again to 135, and then you've seen Manny Pacquiao do it. We've seen Mayweather do it. But who else?
Yeah.
Who else has done it the way they have? Particularly Oscar. I mean, I think it says a lot when you become an Olympic champion. That in my
That's true.
it's hard.
That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight. And Canelo obviously being the there's a lot of things that can be argued about Canelo. Was he the best at 154? Absolutely. Was he the best at 160? I don't think he fought everyone at 160.
Right.
But you look at 168. Come on. When he won the world title at 168, come on, man. You know, look at the guy he fought at 160. Come on, man. Let's be real, man.
Yeah.
You know, let's be real. You know, I'm not a hater. I'm not hating on Canelo. I'm just look at he fought once at 168. Defend the title and fight Benavidez at 168.
Right.
You know, he won the title at 175 versus Kovalev. Okay, then stay at 175 and fight Bivol.
No, he's not gonna do that.
And fight.
Oh hell no, man! Hell no, Manny. They don't.
Then what? Look at all everybody, man.
Manny, we can't book it. I know what you're saying, and I agree with you, man.
Come on, man. I'm just being real.
But Manny, the game. You know how this boxing game is, Manny. You know how this boxing game is, though, Manny. You know how the box. I mean,
that's what I'm saying, Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lost to Bernard Hopkins.
Right.
But he took on the chin and he fought the best fighter at the time.
Right.
The best middleweight fighter in the world in Bernard.
Yeah.
You know, not a guy that was on his way out. Not a guy. No. He fought the best.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He fought Mayweather in his prime. You know, he fought.
No, you're right. You're right. You said it. Trinidad, Bernard Hopkins, Shane Mosley twice. Floyd Mayweather. I mean, he fought everybody.
Everybody, man.
But not everybody's like that, Manny. I feel like the game's changed big time. Everybody's so protected, getting light touches all the time.
I don't know. I don't think so. It just depends on the fighter.
Yeah.
Look at Lomachenko, man. Look at Lomachenko now fighting Teofimo. Look at Teofimo, 15-0. Right. He doesn't have to fight Lomachenko.
Right.
He can wait around. He can wait 5 more years for Lomachenko to get old and fight him then.
Right.
You know what I mean? But look, he chooses to fight Lomachenko now. You know, look at this kid, Shakur. He wants to fight everybody. Right. You know, he's not scared of
Manny,
nobody, and he wants to fight everybody today. It's not his fault. Things are, fights aren't, if he's not fighting the guys he's calling out, that's not on
Right,
him.
right. But Manny, a point or a question I want to ask you is, I mean, Canelo also had some really tough fights in his career, right? He fought Mayweather when he had no business fighting Mayweather. He
Right,
fought he
correct.
fought Arislandi Lara, which was a very risky fight at the time.
And what did I say? And George, what did I say? What did I tell you? He was the best 154
Right,
pounder.
right,
Did I
right,
not
right.
tell you that?
But what I'm saying is, do you feel like there's an attitude? Because this is the attitude that I'm seeing. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm seeing an attitude where he's a guy now who feels like, oh, I paid my dues. Now I can kind of take it easy and pick and choose my fights and make money, whatever. That's the kind of attitude I'm seeing.
Reminds me a little bit of Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly.
But Floyd Mayweather fought my Ghana twice.
Yeah, yeah, he did. He did.
Mayweather fought Canelo.
Right, right,
You know, with a lot of people thought he could beat Canelo could beat Mayweather at the time when they fought, obviously before the
right.
fight, and one man, he
Wiped
just
them out. Yeah,
dominated
wiped them
Canelo.
out.
I think that was a majority decision, by the way. I think one of the judges called it a
Oh my
draw.
God, yeah, that was crazy,
Remember
man. That
that?
was crazy. That was crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Uh, um, you know, he's fought everybody. He fought Castillo coming up at 130. Beat Chicanito Hernandez
Juan.
for the super featherweight title.
Right,
Floyd Mayweather did.
right, right,
Chicanito Hernandez was a dominant 130 pounder, WBC 130-pound champion, true champion.
and you guys were coaching
And
him, right? You were
Mayweather,
coaching him at the time, right, Manny, or your father
no,
was?
no, no, no. He's a great friend of mine. No, I
Oh,
wasn't
okay,
coaching him.
okay, okay.
Rudy Hernandez, his brother. And Rudy, great coach, Gennaro, great fighter, may he rest in peace. He fought Mayweather when Chicanito was in his
Yeah,
prime. Floyd Mayweather fought Chicanito when Chicanito was in his prime.
right, right, right,
And stopped him, knocked him out.
right.
He won the world title versus Chicanito.
He fought Dinamita
Uh,
Marquez. He fought Manny Pacquiao. He fought Miguel Cotto. Yeah, I mean he fought a lot of guys. He fought a lot of guys. But it was not in all of them, but I did feel like in a lot of those fights it was kind of that same Canelo attitude where I'm gonna pick who I fight. I'm gonna pick the weight. I'm gonna pick everything. But not all the time. Not all the
yeah,
time. Not all
yes,
the time.
yes. I agree with you. I agree with you on that. I agree with you with the fact that now Canelo is picking pretty much his opponents and who he's fighting
Yeah,
next,
yeah,
and I think he's earned that too.
yeah.
But is he the best light heavyweight champion? No.
Right,
Is he the best super middleweight champion? Definitely not.
right, right.
Is he the best 154 pounder? Yes.
Yeah,
160. Some fights that I have yet to see at 160 that I believe he's got some unfinished business in that weight class.
right.
But you understand what I'm saying? But definitely not light heavyweight. Not the best light heavyweight or even super featherweight, super middleweight champion.
Oh hell
Definitely.
no, Manny. I don't think, if I'm being honest with you, Manny, I don't think anybody wants to fight Better Biev. Better Biev is a scary, scary guy.
I think the king of the light heavyweight division is Beterbiev, and the king of the super middleweight division is definitely Benavides.
Benavides. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So you want you consider yourself the best. And I suggest you take on
Yeah,
those two fighters because we consider
I
the
would
best.
love to see him. Benavides versus Canelo and maybe Caleb Plant and Callum Smith and kind of figure
Right.
that division out.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely some solid champions, man.
Victor Granillo's in here, Manny. He says, Coach Manny, is Abner fighting this year? PBC has released their schedule on Showtime and he wasn't on there. Is he going to fight on Fox? Love the podcast, he says.
I don't know. Thank you. I don't know. Look, I'm his coach. I'm not his manager. I'm not his promoter.
Yeah,
I stay in my lane. I work with him at the gym, and I'm waiting for him to come back at me and say, listen, we got a fight date. We have an opponent, and that's what we're waiting on. I'm hopeful that he fights before the end of the year, and I'm hopeful that it's maybe not as a main event on Showtime, maybe a co-main event. Why not? Or even on Fox, but hopefully it'll be this year.
Awesome, awesome. Freddie Mendez is in here. Manny, he says, one of the controversial topics in all combat sports is at what point should trainers throw in the towel if a fighter's not having a good night? What do you look for when it comes to this?
Well. Look, if the fighter does not have a chance, does not stand a chance versus his opponent, and is taking a beating, obviously, any moment is the right time to throw in the towel. But if you feel like he's in a close fight, he's in a competitive fight, where he's got a good chance to turn it around. Sometimes you could be losing a fight where the rounds are really close.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And but as long as the rounds are close, then you always have a chance. And look at Mayweather. I'm sorry. Look at Chavez versus Malde Taylor.
Right,
You know,
right.
where Malde Taylor was pretty much dominating the entire fight, but Chavez began to get to Malde Taylor little by little, little by little. He started to wearing down to the body, to the head, where eventually, I believe the 11th round was key, and then obviously the 12th round he went on to defeat and knock out Malde Taylor. But that's an example of how you never give up on a fighter, unless you see a fighter taking a beating and you feel like he's got no chance. And I've been there before, and I've thrown in the towel before with a couple of my fighters here and there. And like I said, you look out for their well-being. It's your responsibility. A fighter will never quit. A fighter will always go out there and put his life on the line. And the last thing he wants you to do is to throw in the towel. But a great friend, a good friend of mine, I'll tell you his name, Rudy Hernandez. My great friend, my teacher, mentor, someone I have the utmost respect for, once told me, "You, as a coach, you hope for the best, but expect the worst." You follow
Yeah,
me?
yeah, no,
You
absolutely,
hope for the best,
absolutely.
and you keep it positive with your fighters. Yes, it's all positive. No negativity. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna win. We're gonna dominate. We're gonna, everything's gonna go well. But in the back of your mind, as a coach, expect the worst,
Yeah,
right? So when it happens, you're actually prepared. You don't panic.
gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
You don't panic. You just handle the situation. However it is, however it comes. Learn to handle the situation.
Right.
Your fighter he's always looking at you. He's always looking to see what you're doing, what you say, and how you handle the situation in the locker room, during the fight, during camp. So yeah, man, that's your duty. But again, hope for the best and expect the worst.
Absolutely. And I think the topic comes up, Manny, because of the whole Wilder Fury fight. I think that's been a real hot point since that fight happened. That was a fight where I would have been okay with the towel being thrown in a little bit
Yeah,
earlier, even if I'm being honest with you.
yeah. Mike Breeden took some heat for that, but apparently everything's okay now. But who's the fighter? Who's the fighter in the corner? I believe that his other coach, uh,
JD's.
yeah, never fought a day, never set foot in,
Right, right,
never a fighter,
right,
never
right,
set foot in a ring,
right, right.
right? That's
100%.
why it's important to have coaches that had that type of experience, that had been there before, that understand, the danger in the sport, like Mark Breland.
Right.
So it had to take a fighter like Mark to say, enough is enough. I'm going to throw in the towel. Take it from a fighter. Take it for someone that's been there before.
Right. Timothy Grant is in here with the thumbs up. Appreciate you being in here, brother. Jaguar Paw says De La Hoya trying to make Canelo feel unneeded. Yeah, I'm not really sure what the situation is between De La Hoya and Canelo there, Jaguar. I think they've been going at it for quite a while.
Yeah, they have. It's unfortunate, but yeah, they have. They
Yeah,
don't have the best relationship. That's a fact, but
yeah.
business is business, man.
Right, right. Hawker Mustang says, "Let's." This is ridiculous. Let's make Gary Russell Jr. versus Canelo Alvarez, Manny.
Oh, come on. Come on.
You know what's funny, Manny, is Gary Russell's been in the boxing news recently for
Yeah.
I guess he sucker punched Terrence Crawford
Terrence
at some
Crawford.
point, and yeah, they've been going back and forth about it.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think it's kind of
I saw
silly,
that.
Manny. I mean, these guys are three weight classes apart. It's not like they're ever gonna
No, not
fight.
only that, not only that, I respect Gary Russell is an incredible fighter. He's a great fighter, but it's time to prove it. It's time to fight the rest of the champions in the division.
Right, right.
It's time to fight Shakur. It's time to fight, you know, Leo Santa Cruz. It's Joseph Diaz. I know it's 130, 126, but you can fight any of these guys, and he
Right.
hasn't fought anybody. Look at his opponents. Look at his lineup. Look at his record.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
really hasn't fought any true champion or anyone worth mentioning. But Joseph Diaz. I'm sorry, I mentioned Joseph Diaz. He
Right,
did
right.
defeat Joseph
He
Diaz.
actually beat him, right?
Yeah, he did defeat Joseph Diaz. I apologize for that, but I like to see more fights like that.
Right.
Not just Joseph, but other champions in the division, whether it's 126, 130. But you got no business calling out Terrence Crawford. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no, that's just a waste of time, and I thought kind of silly.
Yeah.
Um, Paco Imero says Canelo is the Eddie Guerrero of boxing. He lies, he cheats, he steals. Latino cheat ese. Okay, thank you, Paco Imero.
Oh wow! I didn't know that about Eddie Guerrero.
Hawker Mustang says, just follow the cherry picking blueprint. Floyd Mayweather ducked Amir Khan, though. So he's saying that, Canelo's following the Floyd Mayweather cherry picking blueprint, I guess.
I mean, I don't call it cherry picking, but because Amir Khan ain't no charity. You know what I mean? But yet Canelo definitely had an advantage over Khan, meaning his weight. Khan was 147, Canelo's 154. So when they did fight, you could physically see that Canelo was a bigger, stronger fighter of the two.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I was at that fight. Let me tell you, Khan was doing great versus Canelo.
Yeah.
He's a better boxer of the two.
Yeah.
Slick, quick, fast. It's just his chin, man.
Right.
He got caught. He got caught and he got knocked out.
Right, right.
Not the best chin, but definitely a warrior.
Paco,
Because he never backed down. But Amir Khan never backed down from a good time. Never backed down from a good fight.
for sure. And that fight with Maidana is something I'll never forget, man. That was a great fight, Manny.
Absolutely. Yep,
Pac-
that one.
Paco Imero says Canelo lost to Lara, arguably Cotto, beat Trout by a small margin, yet won by a large margin. Somehow got a
Right.
115 against Money May. Arguably
Yeah.
lost to Triple G twice, and Zurdo been calling him out since he moved up.
Yeah, well, Zurdo's his own worst enemy.
Yeah,
So I don't think you'll ever see. I don't think you'll ever see Zurdo fight. Canelo. I don't think that'll ever happen because he's his own worst enemy.
right, right.
He keeps on making mistake after mistake. Trying to go to war with your promoter. You're never gonna win that fight. You're not gonna beat your.
Yeah.
That's a fight you're never gonna win.
And that's something you've
Yeah.
said a couple times before, Manny, and I think that's something that people really need to understand, and I appreciate you putting out there for them.
You gotta pick your battles, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta pick your battles, pick your wars. There's some wars you can't win.
Well, I wanted to
And Zurdo trying to go up against his promoter and Top Rank, you're never gonna win.
Right, right.
Forget it.
I wanted to comment.
So,
I wanted to comment, Manny, on what Baco said about all these opponents. I'm gonna touch on him real quick. I didn't think he lost to Lara. I thought it was a close fight, but I thought Canelo was more aggressive.
Yeah,
Me too. I didn't think.
Close fight, but I thought Canelo won.
Yeah, I didn't think he lost to Cotto. I thought he beat Cotto pretty clearly.
Yeah.
I thought he beat Trout, even if it was a small margin.
Yeah.
Obviously he lost to Money May. That 115 was
Yeah,
crazy.
that was ridiculous.
And then the Triple G fights. I mean, we've talked about that. I thought he lost the first
Yeah,
one, but I was okay with the
yeah.
second one.
hmm But I was okay with the second fight was more like a draw to me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the first fight was more of a win for Triple G. But you don't always get what you want.
Right,
You know,
right, right.
we're not always getting decisions are not always going to go your way. Close call, close decisions. But at the end of the day, you can argue either way. You know what I mean, and that's what's fun about the sport. That's what's interesting about having these close matchups. That some of us may think that Triple G won. Some people may think that Canelo won. But that's the beauty of the sport. Having that's what we had this show, so we can keep it clean, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, and we respect that. You got to respect that.
Right, right. Timothy Grant in here with a comment that I definitely want to hear your opinion on, Manny. He says Demetrius Andrade ASAP, and
Yeah.
he brought that up while we were talking about Canelo. Manny, Demetrius Andrade is a guy who I think was so talented, man, and just never got the fights that he needed to, I think, to get his career really off the ground the way it
Yeah.
should have been,
Yeah.
man.
Class of 2008. He was a 2008 Olympian
Yeah.
back in Beijing, China. And yeah, I mean, look, he never developed. He's a world champion, but he just never became the superstar that many people thought he could become.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Um, but I always wanted to see that fight, him versus Canelo, and that never happened. Uh, but then again, I mean, there's other fights that I like to see Canelo. The Charlos for one,
Yeah.
either 154 or 160. Some good fighters in the super welterweight, middleweight division. That we again, uh, 154 definitely the best fighter in the world, and at its given time. 160, I believe there's still a couple fights that had yet to be made for Canelo at 160 that we never got a chance to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's some interesting opponents, interesting fights out there for Canelo.
Right.
It never ends. We're always gonna have talented fighters out there. Fighters come, fighters go. There's always someone coming in behind. There's another Canelo out there somewhere, another Chavez, another De La Hoya, as we said. Mayweather with Shakur. I think we have the next Floyd Mayweather and Shakur.
Yeah.
And a lot of Teofimo from Honduras, by the way.
Right. Right.
So out of Honduran descent, great for boxing. Someone from Central America. I can't think of another world champion from Central America other than my great friend Carlos Hernandez.
Right.
He became the first Salvadorian champion of the world, and now we have the first Honduran champion of the world in Teofimo. So I think it's great.
Right. Right. Well, Manny, let's not forget Chocolatito, Alexis
Oh yeah,
Arguello.
yeah,
There were a
absolutely.
couple
Nicaragua,
other,
of course,
Nicaraguan fighters. Yeah.
great fighting nations.
And
But what I was referring to was like Carlos Hernandez, Nicaragua, Panama. They've had numerous. Of course, we all remember Arguello. We all remember
Roberto Duran.
Roberto Duran. But you see, in Honduras, I don't think
Yeah.
they've ever had a world champion until now with Teofimo.
Right.
And
Right.
then same thing with Carlos Hernandez being the first Salvadorian world champion. So, it's nice to see that. It's nice to see, them make history for their respective countries.
Absolutely. Paco Imero, this is pretty funny. He says, great quote from your coach, man. He says, reminds me of my Nana when she told me you're only 2 feet tall lying flat on your ass. And then Hawker Mustang says, Gary Russell Jr. versus Canelo was a joke, though, guys. We know it was a joke, Hawker.
Of course.
We got one more question in here, Manny. He says, it's Rocket Rob. He says, Manny, I see you representing the Lakers. Do you think LeBron will deliver us the title this season? It would be
I
great.
sure hope so. I sure hope so, man. I didn't think we look. I'm just happy we got we got sports, but we have basketball and baseball. And look, for a minute there, I didn't think we'd get any of this back.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think this. I didn't think we'd get anything back. So I'm just happy that we do have sports back in our lives. And now that we do, shoot, we got some unfinished business, man. So go Lakers. We got to get that we got to tie the Boston Celtics with world titles and NBA titles, that is, and then hopefully this year we'll tie them up, and then next year we'll be able to pass them up.
For sure. And he says it would be a great way to honor Kobe and end
Be
2020
awesome.
the right way. I think I'm gonna have to get you a Miami Heat jersey, Manny, at some point.
Never,
So.
never will you ever see me wearing any other team jersey but the Lakers, the Dodgers. I'm a Raider fan, yes. I am
Yeah.
a silver and black Raider fan. Grew up a Raider fan here in Southern California, so listen, those are my teams right there.
I love
represent.
it, Manny. I love it. I'm the same way, unfortunately, though. It's all,
Yeah,
all
Dwayne
my
Wade and LeBron, of course.
all my loser Miami teams, but I still love them, Manny. I still love them, brother. Manny, we've been on this thing. We've been on this thing for almost an hour and 50 minutes. So,
Oh wow.
yeah. So,
Okay.
knuckleheads, before me and Manny pass out, well, I haven't had dinner yet, Manny. I'm starving. Before I pass out, I want to thank you all for joining us. It was another, really fun show with you guys. Manny, that was really, really
My
entertaining.
pleasure.
Guys, tune in every Monday at 7 p.m. For another episode of Keep It Clean with Manny Robles. We're going to keep doing this. Manny's going to keep killing it in the fight game. We're going to be bringing back fights in the near future as well, hopefully. So definitely stay tuned. I've also got great content on the channel for you guys, including interviews with fighters and all kinds of other stuff. So, Knuckleheads, thank you all so much for your time. Me and Manny are out of here, and until next time,